Okay. Welcome to Legalized Negligence. This is where we discuss Florida Statute 768.21 subsection 8, and it is in the Florida's wrongful death statutes. And I'm here with my two co-hosts, Sabrina, who in a moment is going to talk to us about the topics that we're going to discuss tonight, and then Travis, who is going to remind us of everything that we forgot to mention. So, and my wife is well, at least on my screen, my wife is in the middle, Luke Shrub, and she's going to kind of help me. If we get too many people in here, she's going to kind of help me navigate everything. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you showing up, and I'm going to go ahead and let Sabrina now talk about the various things that we're going to talk about tonight.
So thank you everyone for joining. I'm so happy that you were able to. Session starts next week, next Tuesday, January 9th. And this will be the legislative 2024. And, from what I'm being told by legislators, opposition, news people, that this is the most bills they've ever seen filed on this topic. So there's a good chance that something's going to happen. We just don't know what. I know the 5 bills are all, two of them match, the other 2 match, and then the 5th one is individual match in the House at this time. And so anything can happen. The way the bills look now, they can look very different by the time session is done. If any of these Senate bills get heard, it will be the first time in history that this has been brought in front of Senate legislators. That's pretty big. So I wanted to do this Zoom tonight because I've been getting a lot of questions from different people asking how they can help, what they can do in person, from home. There's always so many ways to help. And I've been working hard for the last 3-ish months to just get appointments with these legislators in Tallahassee. And I've got several scheduled. Some I'll be running from one office to the other. Clearly I'll be late because it's going to be tough, but you take whatever appointment you can get. Their time is very limited. So right now I'm primarily working on the committees that the bills have been referred to, which for the Senate, it's been referred to the Judiciary Committee. That consists of several legislators. For the House, it's been referred to the Civil Justice Subcommittee. And like most sessions in previous years, they've started to say the House won't hear it unless the Senate does. So I'm really focusing on the Senate Judiciary, because if the House is going to do anything, it's going to be only if the Senate does something. I think there's a good chance that the Senate will do something this year. There's 3 bills they can pick. Which one? Senator Clay Yarborough is the one in charge of letting the bill be heard. He'll probably pick his own bill, Senate Bill 248, in my opinion. So if and when the bill is heard, that is when we need people to go to Tallahassee and speak. And that will just be one committee. It will then be referred to the next committee. And if it's added to the agenda, we go speak again. And then the 3rd committee. And if it passes, we also have to think about the House. It has to go through 2 committees. So that's 5 committees. That can be tough to make it every single time. So first, don't feel bad if you can't make it every time. There is cards you can fill out and submit, and you don't have to be there to speak, but they read them out loud. Like Jane Doe is a proponent or an opponent of, the bill, and they will read it out loud. You can still send your support, but it's always nice for them to hear the stories from the people like us and more. I know there's so many more people. So next week's efforts in Tallahassee will be making those connections with legislators, primarily the Judiciary Committee for the Senate, in my opinion. and dropping off. I have like you guys, I have like this is only half. I have so much stuff that I had printed to hand out um to the legislators, with information for whenever the bill is up to be heard. Philip sent me these big stack of rat cards. I want to make sure every single legislator has a green folder in their office, and it's going to have a label on it. They're over there. What bills this folder refers to. So when the bill comes up, they can, if they so wish, can refer to this folder, and at least I can say I did give them information. But secondary to that is, emailing them. So for you guys that want to help via email, I would first target the Senate Judiciary Committee and email them. Now we know Senator Yarborough sponsored 248. We know Senator Book sponsored 442. 442 is a full repeal. 248 is a repeal with the ACA and DOH restrictions. So we're not trying to really convince them of anything. They are well aware. What we're trying to do is reach out to the other senators on the Judiciary Committee and explain your story, explain why you think the law should be, changed. What have you experienced? What, the history of the law. It was made for a certain reason. That goal wasn't met. So, how could it help the people in Florida by changing it? Basically, just tell them what speak from your heart, and hopefully they will start to get enough emails and hear from enough people that they can, focus on the topic. Because I hear it's a pretty talked about subject in Tallahassee right now. Another way to help is phone calls. Call, ask to try to schedule an appointment via phone. You don't have to be there in person. They'll also do phone call meetings.
Okay.
So it's a lot of stuff to do, 100%. But my goal is to make sure they all have information in their hand next week. I will do my best. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, let me interrupt for just a minute, Sabrina, because I want to give some background here. Very few people understand the work that we've been doing over the past year. Roughly a year ago, Travis and I got in touch with each other, and we started working on a different way to approach the legislature. Up until that point, people had only been going to delegation meetings and telling their story, telling what happened to their loved one and why they thought it was wrong. But in a Zoom meeting that we had with one of the lobbyists named Mark Delegal earlier this year, they mentioned a task force study that was done in 1987 and 1988. And so Travis requested a copy of it, and they sent us the task force study. And I don't think they believed that we would actually read it. So Travis and I spent months going through that study. It was almost 600 pages long, broken down into 3 different sections. And we started pulling information out of that study that the legislature was never told. You can't imagine that every legislator is going to read every single page of everything that they're handed. And the lobbyists, specifically the insurance lobbyists, have been misleading the legislature for the past 34 years. They've been leading them to believe that doctors were leaving the state because their malpractice premiums were so high, and that it was caused by frivolous lawsuits. Well, through their very own study, we were able to show that that's absolutely not true. And that big stack of papers, to Sabrina, if you'll pull that back over in front of your camera again, this was work that I put together with Travis's help. And I can't remember, it's like 5 pages or so long. It was just citations that I pulled together, and we began to send that out to the legislators who were involved with this particular legislation. If I recall correctly, it was either Elsa or Meg who actually wrote to me and asked for me to provide them a copy of that. When I made it available to everyone in the group, there was only one person that reached out. So Elsa, I think that was you
It was.
who wrote to me. And it's still available. Anybody who wants to see what we've provided to the legislators can see how we're approaching this. There was information in there pulled from their own studies about how many doctors are causing how much of the malpractice payout. And it's just a tremendous amount that you never hear. One of the big things, and Travis and I were discussing this before our meeting started tonight, they talked about the doctors that were leaving the state because malpractice insurance was so high. Well, we've recently discovered about 2 months ago that a recent questionnaire of doctors asking them or a recent survey of doctors asking them why they're leaving the state, only 6% of them said it was for financial reasons due to liability insurance. That means that 94% of them were leaving the state for another reason. And the other thing that the lobbyists don't mention is at the time these doctors are leaving the state, how many doctors are coming back into the state? You know, how many doctors are moving to Florida at that time? So if you want, and Meg just sent me a note saying she would like a copy of the things that Sabrina is going to be handing to all of the legislators, just write to me at Philip with one L at legalizednegligence.com, and I will be happy to provide that information with you with all the citations and a copy of the studies. So if you want to read the whole thing, you can do that too. But anyway, Sabrina, I'll let you go ahead. I just wanted to give that background so they would know what that stack of papers is that you're bringing with you.
Sabrina, if we pass a committee, do we know how quickly the following committee is scheduled?
That's a good question. So, we don't, but right now it's in the Senate referred to Judiciary Appropriations and Rules. So Judiciary meets every Tuesday, and they are required to give a 72-hour notice of what bills will be heard. So with you know, that puts us at the previous Friday, maybe Thursday or Friday. Each Thursday or Friday, we should be able to go onto the Senate tracker website, type in the Senate Bill 248, 442, or 310, and see it. Right now they all say referred to in the committees. It will say added to agenda, and once it says it's been added to the agenda, it'll say the date. So we will most likely only have a few days notice, which can also make it hard. I do not believe that it's going to be heard on the first day of session, which is January 9th, but we should know that. Well, we should know that today or tomorrow because it's Thursday or tomorrow's Friday, 72 hours. So if it is, we'll know. In fact, the schedule for the 9th might already be out. I haven't looked for Judiciary. Now, if it's heard on the 16th, which is the following Tuesday, we will know the end of next week, which is like the 11th or 12th. So I will be watching that closely. If I see it's been added, I will post it in the group for everyone to know. And, you know, let everyone know that I'm able to in case they want to go talk. I do believe, so there's about 70 lobbyists registered on House Bill 120, and some are for the law to end and some are against it. The majority, I would assume, they don't have to put what they are. The majority, though, I would assume are against it. That's a lot of lobbyists. That's like,
well, if they're paid lobbyists by the insurance companies, which I believe, that's why I wanted that list from you, that I believe that most of them are paid lobbyists for the insurance companies, which are the ones dictating this whole process. Okay. And that's why I was checking that. And they are. So I got some questions about this because I've really been doing a lot of thinking about this. And the bottom line from what I'm gaining from all this is that they don't want too much information in these emails. So I whittled everything down to one page to send it. And I also thought that they're lazy, and that's no offense to them, but they are. They have a lot of stuff to read, that I put in there what bills I want them to support, because if I have a convincing enough argument, they're going to buy it. It's almost like a courtroom almost. That's what it reminds me of. If I present like, here's my son, and this is why I do it in one page, that's easy for them because they don't have to plow through it, plow through it, I mean. So would you agree with that? Because I'm gonna do the email since I'm stuck here. I figured I might as well do that, at least can work on my laptop while I'm healing. So I can send out everything, and I'll be happy to send it out, and I'll be happy to wait until you hit them with the live meetings first and do a follow-up. I think if we do a coordinated effort where they're constantly bombarded with it, it's just like a 15-second commercial on TV. They're going to remember it.
Elsa, if you can bear with me just 1 second, my wife is going to have to leave our meeting because she's got her own meeting with her. Or you're not doing that?
It's not till 7:30.
Oh, that's right. We're an hour different. I apologize.
Yep.
All I
No
was going to do is thank her and appreciate her for the work that she's done. Everything that Travis and Sabrina and Elsa has read, it might take me a week to write that document, but my wife spends hours editing it for me. So I wanted to show appreciation to her for that. I mean, she has no dog in this fight, but she spends hours reviewing my work and making it readable.
That's true love then. That's true love then, Philip.
Meg posted a question in chat. Do we have the historical record of how each legislator has voted in the past? Sabrina, you probably know that best.
So the Senate hasn't ever voted, but we do have the House rep list. I have the House rep list. Yes. I have a meeting with one of them that actually voted no, which is really interesting that they agreed to a meeting. I think I only have one meeting with somebody who voted no. So that'll be, I mean, that's good. I'm happy. So when do we go to Tallahassee? Well, like I said, so we have the option to go when we know that the bill is being heard. We won't know until the previous Thursday or Friday when it will be heard in Judiciary, which is the first committee. Judiciary meets every Tuesday. So we can keep checking the schedule to see what, I'm gonna look up and see if the judiciary is released for the Tuesday the 9th. That's the first day of session. It's very unlikely that it's going to be heard that day. Or maybe Travis, do you want to look it up? My computer's not working right now with me. But you just want to see if they release it. So Senator Yarborough is the one who makes that schedule. And as soon as he adds it to the agenda, that's when we'll know that we can go speak in Tallahassee. When I go next week, I really don't have a place to speak. But I'll be handing out all these folders, and I have a table that I'll be set up in the rotunda on the 4th floor to hand out information. And I have several meetings. I've made some more today. Actually, one is with Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez. She was our bill sponsor in 2021 and 2022 before Senator Lauren Book took over in 2023. So I was really happy about getting that meeting. I have several though, and it'll be a process to talk to them all, but I have to get more co-sponsors on the bill, more support. But it's it'll be a big session, I think, because like I said, people keep saying they just cannot believe how many bills are filed. Usually they get 3 minutes. That's a good question. If we're lucky, we'll get the whole 3 minutes. If there's an overwhelming amount of people, they might start to drop it to 2 minutes and then 1 minute towards the end. I don't know, but usually you get 3 minutes. And that might not sound like a lot, but that's the same for delegation meetings. And you can say a lot in 3 minutes. If you spend maybe a minute on your story, a minute on the law, why you think it's wrong, and a minute on what you want to see done, you can make it happen. One thing I think is very important when talking to legislators, whether it be in front of them or email or calling them, whatever it is, these handouts that you're giving them, tell them what you're asking for. I learned that the hard way. My first time talking to legislators, I told them what happened to my dad, but I didn't tell them what I was asking for. So that threw me off. But what are we asking for? We are asking for them to repeal subsection 8 and restore equal access for all Floridians to the civil courts. I mean, that's what I'm asking for. But you guys understand, right? Like, you have to tell them what you're asking for. And, then it gets even deeper. Like Philip and Travis have said, it gets into the law, when it was made, why it was made, how the true intentions have greatly failed, and how, if you think about the opposition's argument, it's actually very weak, in my opinion. I don't know how it's been so believable for all these years. Their argument is so weak. If we could get these legislators to focus on reducing medical malpractice cases in the first place, then I think medical malpractice premium rates would naturally drop as well. So if we can turn their mind to focus on the good, that you can't argue with it, like focus on decreasing med mal cases. How do you do that? You raise the standard of care. You allow that accountability, that equal access to the court. Then now you have that idea of, okay, that might reduce med mal premium rates in the long run because we'll have less med mal cases. So, right now, there's no reason to do better, but let's create a reason. Does anyone have any questions?
So I have a question. Is the AMA backing the opposition as well? Do you know? The American Medical Association?
I believe they are backing the lobbyists are lobbying for them on
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
the AMA and the FMA,
Really?
Florida
Wow.
Association.
Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, I
Yes.
practice in Florida, and I'm a friend of Yana's, and I couldn't believe that this bill actually existed. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
Inhumane,
What
actually.
happens? It's it should not exist.
No.
Someone just asked so Meg asked, do we have any doctors willing to speak? Recently I have come in contact with a physician in South Florida, and she lost her father to what she believes is medical malpractice. She a doctor. So she is willing to come speak in Tallahassee if and when the bill is heard. And I've, put her in on notice, so to speak, that it would probably be a Tuesday. But to answer your question, Meg, that's the only doctor so far I know that has said they would go. And it's because she lost her father. It's actually happened to her, but she understands both sides of the argument. So I think she's a great person to have come speak. Because she's experienced it, unfortunately, but she is willing to speak up. So yes, that one.
I'm willing. I'm a doctor in Florida.
It would be great. I don't know
yeah,
where
I'd
you're.
be willing.
That'll be a long drive.
Well, you're in Tallahassee, right?
I'm in Gainesville. Where are you at? Where are you located?
Pensacola.
Okay. So how far are you from Tallahassee?
3 hours.
Okay, I'm like 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it would be great to have. It'd be great to have everyone there. The more the better, right? The more support, the better. Our side. But like I said, there's 3 in the Senate, 2 in the House, so it's tough to make everyone. The committee meeting on the 16th is at 8:30 a.m. So it's like, do you stay the night before or do you leave early? That's a personal decision, but it can get expensive to go all 5 times. So it's but it's a start. I'm looking forward to this. I think something will be done. I don't know what. Let's see. Judge. It would be great for you to approach the person Meg. I don't know the judge that you might be referring to. Go ahead, Yana. Is it Yana or John?
Yana, hi, everybody. Teresa, remember when we met your friend, the politician who is at MD, and he was telling me as well that he was telling us he's against this bill and he might be in Tallahassee at the time.
Yeah,
think
yeah,
he-
Joel,
You met him? Yeah. Maybe he will be able to speak because he told us that he is against this law.
right.
So maybe we can reach out to him, and he's MD and a politician.
Yeah, he's a District 1 rep. So, yeah, he told us that he was against this bill.
He's a House rep.
Mhm.
Yeah, he is.
Do you remember his name?
Joel Rudman.
Okay, I've spoke with him. Travis is laughing. So we were in Tallahassee last session, and he actually found a group of us just walking outside and stopped. He has a lot of. Is he either of you guys his house rep? Are you in his area?
I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he said he has a lot of constituents affected by this. But to my understanding, he said, what did he say, Travis? He said that he would rather not vote. He said he would rather just not give his vote. So they can walk out of the room to use the bathroom that moment. But from what I understood last session, now things could have changed. I did have a Zoom with him like 2 months ago. I feel like we talked more about mental health. He has a lot of mental health bills this session. Then I feel like we talked more about that than this law for some reason. But he has a lot of constituents affected by this law, what he said to us in Tallahassee last session. So he is aware, and it might be a good idea for you guys if you've connected with him, especially you, Teresa.
Yeah.
You are his constituent. It will be stronger for him to hear from you because you are in his voting area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would
Well, we
recommend.
met with him and went over the details of the case of Yana's dad, which was like gross negligence and malpractice. And he seemed interested. So who
Well,
knows?
if you try to reconnect with him, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that would be very helpful to have him speak up on our side. I do remember one thing I can tell you he said to the group of advocates last session was that he has a clean license, but it's because he earned it. It's not because this law helped him cover anything up. He did say that. It was like he's proud of his license being the way it is because he is a good doctor, I guess is how I understood it. So
Okay.
he did make that comment. I mean, I think he's a great guy. He actually had a blood clot a couple months ago.
Yeah,
And
he did.
I shared his post, and then I made one in asking for prayers for him because my father died of a 9-inch long blood clot, and he shared my post. And he knows that the doctor missed a 9-inch long blood clot. It killed my father, and there was nothing I could do. So it was actually a little bit I kind of felt a little bit of trauma, but he posted a photo of his leg, and he posted the clot that they removed. And when
I
I
saw
saw it,
that.
I felt like dizzy, because it was too close to home. It was in his leg. It was a clot. And I was like, I have to take a minute. It was rough for me to even see that. And I told him that. I think that's how we got on the mental health topic, because I'm like, that was hard for me. I can see how I'm scarred by that in general because of what happened to my dad. But yeah, I think it would be great if you reach out to him, especially as a constituent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anna, I have a question for you, if you don't mind. Did you file a complaint with the Department of Health
Are you talking to me?
to Yana?
Oh, Yana. Mhm.
You'll need. There you go.
We did. I did.
Were you
And
successful?
hmm?
Were you successful?
Right now, it is still in a stage of investigation, and you're not allowed to know anything. It's
Right.
kind of really frustrating. And physicians have the 2 physicians that basically killed my father in a hotel room, experimenting on him. They hired attorneys, but I have had my father exhumed. And I had him forensically examined, and the examiner said it was a homicide. But at the same
Good.
time, I'm unable to really do any civil actions. And that was very difficult because we couldn't find a lawyer that would take a case. Dr. Mahaki tried to help me. We called about 10 or 15 lawyers.
Yana,
Take it.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yana, if you get a letter of closure or just any letter from them, that's your cue to request a report from the expert witness if they used one. You have 60
Oh,
days
really?
to respond. Get it, because you will not get that letter after the 60 days.
Thank you, Travis. Do you mind writing me exactly what it is that, because I will
Yeah.
forget like exactly because I'm not that familiar with all of this. So once the medical board is done with their investigation, they're gonna send me something?
Right. In my case, I've always gotten closure letters, and like the third paragraph of that closure letter gives you a state statute that says what you can and can't do, and it says you got to respond within 60 days. Well, what they don't plainly tell you in that paragraph is that you can request from the Department of Health the expert witness report. I don't know why you can't say it in one sentence. They make you hunt the statute and then read and find it. So just when you get the letter, any letter, just automatically request any expert witness reports. Make them send it to you, and then see if there's any bias in that report and use it against them in the future.
Yeah.
Hey, Travis, could you refile it if they turn you, if they already did all that and I missed the window? Can you refile?
No, well, let me qualify that. I have not been successful at this time in getting it.
Okay.
They have turned me down left and right. However, there's a statute that allows you to sign a release that allows you to access some records. What those records are, I don't know, but it's more than what public records would give you.
Oh, what,
Because
do you
why
know?
else? Why else would there be a statute? You know that
Right.
says give us
Yeah.
this release. So that's
What's
where
the
I'm
name
at
of the-
now.
What's
That's
the
where I'm
name of
at
the
now.
statute? What's the
Say
name of
again?
the statute? What's the name of the statute?
Let me find it.
Because I'll do it too. Like sometimes when you do more than one request, it, starts the fires rolling.
Mm.
While Travis is searching that, I saw Elizabeth had a hand raised. Did you have something to say, Elizabeth?
Unmute yourself. Yeah.
I was just wondering, you were talking about that expert or whatever. Are you talking about from the medical board? An expert?
The expert is another medical licensee that has to be in the same practice or specialty as the person that's the respondent.
Yeah.
And that person, that expert, will be totally anonymous. They'll redact it. You won't know who it is,
Yeah.
but they'll attest to say that they read the medical record and all this, and they'll render their opinion. But in my report that I got early on, they said that they read the report, they looked at all the information, but then further down in the report, it says that they did not do anything but read the doctor's notes. They didn't look at the CDs and stuff. So they did not form their own opinion. They just regurgitated the opinion of the doctor that they're supposedly evaluating.
Oh
so
my God.
That's why this is critical to get.
My other question, can you hear
Norma,
me?
you're muted.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. My other question is, what if we have an expert report from an expert that evaluated what happened?
No, that is what a hearing is for. That would not be weighed by the medical board. But to go back to what Travis said, the SME, the subject matter expert, is not there to evaluate anything but to review the notes. They are not supposed to, they have no standing to evaluate what the doctor did, only what the doctor documented. It goes back to that four corners doctrine that Philip will speak of in contract law. The subject matter expert cannot render an opinion of what would I have done in this instance. All they can do is say, here's what the doctor did, given the information they had at the time, was this valid? And that's all they're allowed to do.
Okay. So it's not, it's pretty much like ACA and DACA don't have any teeth to do anything legally, is what you're saying. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I
All right.
have I have my dad's that the Department of Health did, thankfully, because Travis asked me to request it, and it's a rather um, report done by a doctor who was in the ex the same profession as the doctor found at fault for working below the standard of care, and that is the one who determined that my dad worked below the standard of care and committed malpractice. And in it, they say what their profession is, what they do. That, like, this particular sees patients with blood clots, and they said, with my dad having all those signs and symptoms, that this, and this should have been done. Blood thinner should have been administered. An ultrasound should have been ordered, and they can see that in the medical record, none of that was done. Therefore, they believe the doctor works below the standard of care. It was a very helpful report, but again, I can't take it to court because I can't get nothing I can do with it. It's nice to have, and I'm very
Elizabeth has her hand up. Elizabeth, have you got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Sabrina, did she say a 9-inch blood clot? Did I hear her right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my question to Sabrina, was he vaccinated with the COVID vaccine?
No, my dad died October 15th, 2020, and the COVID vaccine didn't come out until December of 2020.
Okay, because they caused blood clots. That's why I was asking. All right.
Yeah, a lot of people ask, so I appreciate you asking and not assuming, because a lot of people assume as well. But this happened to my father before the vaccine ever came out, and he had a history of blood clots, and they documented that. Patient with a history of blood clots, patient taking Eliquis, which is a blood thinner. They even billed the insurance company for both, but they didn't check.
Wow.
He died. And then they refused the autopsy that I paid for. When I got the call from the autopsy doctor and he tells me a 9-inch long blood clot, I was like, my dad texted me and said I could be sitting here with a clot and Dr. Morthy doesn't even care. 3 days later, my dad was dead of a blood clot. I'll show you. Like, I don't know if hold on. I have a photo right here of it. And it was very obvious. Very, very obvious. I had the news at my house today. They came up from Jacksonville. I had all this stuff up, but this was my father's leg.
Wow.
And they ordered physical therapy for this.
No.
In bed rest. Yeah. That's it. So
Oh my God.
this doctor who did this is 79 years old. He's still
Why?
It's horrible. I mean, it's really bad. But
It is.
I guess that's why I won't give up. I feel like it's a fight that I can't give up. It's not an easy fight. Nobody ever would be easy. Far from easy. But
none of this is
in
easy.
the chat, I put the statute, I put the link in there
Oh,
too.
great.
But
Thanks.
it's 119.0712. And if you look at A, that's the part that says with express written consent of the individual or individual's legally authorized representative. And if you look at C, it says by court order upon showing good cause. So if you're in probate, you can, I guess, subpoena the records also.
That's good to know.
And I am quite surprised at the power that we do have in probate. I learned it rather late. But you can do interrogatories, you can do depositions, you can subpoena documents. So if you have probate open, go after them. Get what you can.
It's worth a try. Worth a try. I have nothing to lose at this point. And Sabrina, I don't think any of this is easy for any one of us. It's just it's a horrible thing that we didn't expect, but I'm really glad we're all fighters.
Me too.
Somebody has to do it.
Oh, and I want to reiterate one thing. Just because your 2 years is up, that does not
Yeah.
mean you're out of the game. Because the
Okay.
statute says it's 95.114C. It's upon discovery. You get 2 years after you discover something.
Oh,
Okay,
Oh, really? Can you
up
say that
to
again? 99.11?
95.11,
Uh-huh.
subsection 4, subsection C. If you can
Okay.
find where they hid something from you, like didn't give you your HIPAA paperwork, and I'm still finding stuff 4 years later.
Okay.
If you could make the claim that they hid it from you and that you could possibly have used that with an expert witness, you get 2 more
Yep.
years, up to a maximum of 7.
Okay. I'm gonna do it then. Thank you.
hey,
Give me-
Travis.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
In the case of Yana's father, we were able to find out that the doctors who treated him here in the Pensacola area in Gulf Breeze, they actually they didn't add to their notes some of the things they gave him, which led to his eventual death.
Wow.
Like and then one of the doctors, Yana's father died a hideous death, and he was very, very anemic because they were giving him IV hydrogen peroxide, and which just destroys blood cells, right? And so anyway, they thought it was a great idea to go to one of the doctor's offices, and one doc took blood out of the other doc and gave it to Yana's dad. And
Oh
he
my
was dead
God.
2 days later. Yeah, it's so egregious what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So anyway, they somehow manufactured a what do you call it? Like a evidence that they got the blood from a blood bank, and they didn't. So
Lied their asses off. Yep.
yeah, so
Well, there should be tracking numbers, on all the products.
yeah,
Wouldn't his blood match one of those two people? Like somehow, can't they test it to see? I mean, if there's a
but the one guy was a universal donor. He was O negative blood.
okay.
So he had the right idea. He didn't even type and cross or anything.
Hey, Teresa, I don't know that I buy that he was a universal donor. I don't trust him.
Yeah, I don't trust
And the
him
other
either.
thing is they falsified some documents as well.
They
Yeah.
Kind
falsified
of
stuff.
remember?
They falsified stuff in my son's record too, because I copied it before he died, and then they gave us the one after he died, and I got that too, but I couldn't get a lawyer to do anything about it. They lied. They out and out lied,
Okay,
and they
this,
were
Oh yeah.
caught.
this is what I could recommend doing. Don't think about medical records, getting the medical records. You need to get the designated record set. The
All right.
designated record set is more of an umbrella term for like billing is a subsection, the medical
Okay.
record is a subsection, communications is a subsection. All that is within the designated record set. So Google exactly what's included in that, because anything with PHI, if it's got a patient's name, identifiable information, whatever, that is part of what's allowable by HIPAA.
Okay.
So be sure you get it. It's like I just got a week ago the labs. I've never had them for 4 years.
Oh my
I
God.
just got them. And the interesting thing about the labs is there's dates from 2011 or 2021. I'm sorry. My mom died in 2019. So why is a date of 2021 showing up on a lab report? The day of and up
Wow.
to 4 days after HHS OCR closed their report, their
Oh my
investigation.
God.
Speaking of dates,
Wow.
I'll tell you guys about a form you can also request. It takes 60 days and it's called an accounting of disclosure. And it tells you not everyone, because they are not required to release what nurses were in the chart, but it tells you other people that were in the medical record after the patient died. And I just found out about this document recently and I requested it. And the doctor that did this to my dad, his Department of Health punishment date was December 2nd, 2022. He was in my dad's chart on November 29th, 2022, 3 days before his punishment. And you have to put a reason code. He put continuity of care.
Wow.
What continuity of care happens more than 2 years after a patient dies? My dad died 10/15/2020. So it was
What a
11.
liar. That's hideous.
Well,
But
it's
that's what,
in the chart. He shouldn't
Yeah.
have been in the chart, especially 3 days before he was about to get punished. There was no reason. So I'm just now trying to figure out what I can do because I didn't know about that. But yes, the accounting of disclosure, it'll tell you who accessed the chart.
Oh my God.
okay. Okay.
It's called an accounting of disclosure, and I requested it directly from the hospital. And I do everything by email because then you have a record.
Yeah, you have a written record. Okay, and you don't need a FOIA to request it from the hospital? They just give it to you?
That's
No, I
HIPAA.
emailed to the I want to say I started with like risk management, and I just
Oh, I
asked
thought,
an accounting
they-
of disclosure.
well, I'm gonna write to them anyway because they pretty much don't want to talk to me now because I was a pain in their ass. I don't care. But I'll still email them and ask because the more they refuse this stuff, the more I'm
Yeah.
building the case.
Well,
Yeah.
that's it, is if they do refuse you, well, then you have a claim that they're hiding something or they didn't
Yep.
follow federal law in their response time. Now,
That's what I'm looking for, Travis, that they didn't follow federal law because then I could really file a lawsuit
yeah, well,
against them.
get the accounting of disclosures, but also get the communication logs. And
Okay.
if they don't want to give them to you, go
Mhm.
outside to like their primary care physician for the patient and
Mhm.
get the same records from them because the communications log should be the same,
Mm-hmm.
both directions. And that's how I'm getting the hospital that I took my mom to, is the hospital has yet to give me communications logs. So I went to my mom's PCP and they said, well, they did contact us, but it was 3 days after her death. Well, when you're admitted to the ER, immediately upon admittance, they're supposed to do certain disclosures. And also within 24 hours to the PCP, they're supposed to let them know that they've been admitted. The
Yeah.
law shows
Yeah, they
none
don't
of
do
that
that.
occurred.
Yep, that's in their record. I understand exactly what you're talking about. I saw it. That's why it was like a 3,000 page record. My daughter and I combed it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
So don't just rely on the records from where your loved one died. Go
Yeah.
to their providers and see what there is to be found.
Okay.
Yana, you can write to any of the three of us at Philip at Legalized Negligence, Travis at legalizednegligence.com, or Sabrina at legalizednegligence.com.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So if I like, because the doctors did this in a hotel room in so-called outpatient care,
Mm-hmm.
and my father died in a hotel room. So what I want to ask you, you're telling me that there is communication laws that if I asked something of the doctor now and she refused to give it to me, can I file a lawsuit based on that? No.
I'm going to, Travis, hold your thought for just a minute. This is a really good place to say we're not attorneys, okay? We're just family members like the rest of you, and we're sharing our stories and what we have learned. We're not providing legal advice or anything like that. We just have a forum to discuss the things that we've learned since we've been involved in this. I got to tell you, Yana, that sounds so weird to me that your dad was in a motel room, okay?
Yeah.
There's 1,000 questions that I could ask just that. Did the police have to be called because there's a dead body in a motel room?
They didn't do that.
Okay, but what happened, nobody called police. They basically, the doctors told us he just, died of COVID.
Yeah, they covered it up with COVID. Yeah.
Okay, but they
Yes.
don't get to just call from a motel room and say, hey, send me an ambulance down here. We've got somebody dead. We need to take him to it.
Nothing was followed by law, and I have a case against police department as well. What I had to do is pay out of my own pocket exhumation of my father and take him having transferred to forensic examiner. And forensic examiner have determined it was a homicide. And now it's in his hands. His report takes 4 months. It's about to be done. It's about that time because my dad was examined in October. And now he says he's going to contact authority.
Okay, just out of my
So
own
it's basically
curiosity, yeah, just out of my own curiosity, how was your dad transported from the motel room, and where was he transported to?
he died in a hotel in Holiday Inn, and he was transported to the morgue.
Well, yeah, but Yana, remember, they didn't do an autopsy initially
Yeah,
because
right.
these two doctors are so evil. And I'm not saying that flippantly. They really are evil. They convinced a friend of theirs who owned a what's it called, Yana? A hospice.
Right.
Yeah, to come, and she put the death blow on this poor man because they started morphine and they overdosed him on morphine, and he ended up dying. And so they were like, oh crap, you know. So what they did is they took his body. This is what I'm assuming, Yana, and they brought it straight to the not the morgue. It wasn't the morgue because they would have looked, I mean, the funeral home.
No,
And they
funeral home,
somehow
yes.
worked. Yeah, they somehow worked all that out with all of their cabal, and they,
I
they did.
requested autopsy.
Yeah,
wanted
Yana requested. I mean,
autopsy. I was
it
in a
was
bad mental state.
well, don't. Yeah, I mean,
But
and
they
then they had
refused that.
Yana on all kinds of Xanax, and they tanked her up
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
There is
That's
a
unreal.
chain of custody.
Yeah.
Okay? And an ambulance or somebody like that who is in the business of transporting cadavers knows good and well that you don't go from motel room to funeral home.
Yeah.
They did it though.
There has to
Yeah.
be a stop in
My son
between.
was there. He can tell you.
I understand what you're asking. I'm Ethan, I'm her son, and
Nice
we're
to
talking
meet
about my grandfather. I know what you're asking, and let me just tell you what happened was ridiculous. I personally don't know where he went after he died. All I know is he died in the hotel room, and then later on, when we went to the cops, they told us that they were never notified that a death under hospice had taken place in the hotel room.
The doctors had all kinds of people they knew, and they arranged everything. And they lied to us in everything, basically persuaded me and us that my dad just died of COVID. And now we just, found out that something like this has happened, and it was illegal. Even cops were trying to cover those doctors because doctors know the local cops. So now I had to finance forensic examiner out of our own finances, which you can imagine the cost. I had to take a personal loan to do this for the justice for my dad. I was unable to, absolute hell. I wasn't able to find a lawyer to take any case. So now I have forensic examiner.
Did a medical examiner get involved in this at any point?
Not here.
Notified. Don't know exactly what's happening.
They've been notified, cops, and it almost seems like the two doctors that did this, they know everybody. They were doing their own experimentation on my dad. And what happened is everything just, nobody cared at all. So I had to take my own initiative, hire forensic examiner, exhume my father's body, deliver him to forensic examiner, and now it's in the hands of custody of that examiner.
Okay.
And he determined homicide. So the case is going to start moving criminally from here.
Yeah.
But the civil part is like, I can't get any justice on a civil part at all.
Oh, well, you're going to wind up getting justice on a criminal part before this is all over with. I can guarantee you that. I used to work in forensics when I worked with the organ donor program, and I dealt with our state medical examiner extensively. And I can tell you, bodies don't just get moved from motel rooms to funeral homes.
I agree.
You may not be able to do anything civilly, but I guarantee you can do something criminally.
Okay.
That is
Yeah,
the
no,
most
we're
insane story
working
I've
on
ever
it.
heard.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
telling Philip, it's even worse than that.
yeah. If you heard the whole story of what they did, these are two doctors who were experimenting, trying to find cure for COVID and get credit for it. And they were experimenting on my father, injecting him with 21 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide. And the hydrogen peroxide wasn't even made in a pharmacy. They bought it in a store. It was a 3% food grade peroxide you can buy in a store. And they were injecting it inside of my dad, and the doctor, the male doctor, actually used ozone gas, direct ozone gas, like an empty gas in a syringe, and injecting it into his vein. He claimed that it's totally safe and ozone kills COVID. Now, I found out, medical examiners told me, your dad never had any COVID. It was not COVID. They basically tortured him.
Well,
Oh.
if you don't mind, I would like to get in touch with you this coming week, and maybe we can have a phone conversation, because when I worked with the organ donor program, we had to be extremely careful, because when a person passed away, and whether that was cardiac death or brain death, and they were given into our custody, we had to make sure that the proper channels were followed so that we turned the body over to the next person in line. And I can tell you, it does not go from motel room to funeral home.
Well, and that's what they did, Philip. And we found out because I paid for my dad's embalmment. And the medical examiner said that that wasn't done right at all. Like, right, Teresa? Like,
Yeah, they said they did an intra-abdominal embalming and they did a really poor job, which actually in the end worked well for us because a lot of his tissue was maintained.
Yeah.
So they were able to make judgments, like a lot of stuff wasn't ruined by the embalming process. But these two doctors are still practicing here, and they are still out on the speaker circuit because they're these complete, and excuse my language, but they are complete nut jobs who are advocating all kinds of crazy treatments for COVID, and yeah, and they're
advertising themselves, basically. They advertise themselves, and they wrote some book
yeah
on COVID, and they co-authored the book, and now they're like speaking.
Just saying.
yeah.
Okay. Elsa, did you have a question about organ donation?
I did. My understanding about organ donation is it's a $42 billion a year business.
It wouldn't
And
surprise
that,
me.
and my understanding too, some of the investigation work I did was that there are people that are put in the legalized negligence position when they don't have a family or anybody to intervene for them, and that their organs are harvested. The similar situation happened with my son because they wanted me to pull the plug the first day he had his cardiac arrest, and that's why I became his medical guardian to prevent them from harvesting his organs. So when you said you worked with him, it immediately perked my ears up because I think there's an undercurrent of this ugliness, and everything's about money, including what's going on with the doctors. And it's like really needs to be exposed, but it's so big.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this, and it's like in any profession, we are not trained that way. We're trained to be ethical in everything that we do. Now, that does not mean that some people haven't figured out a way to make money off of it, but that is not the standard. All right.
Okay.
In no way is that the standard. I was, let me see, how do I say this? I don't want to share something I'm not supposed to share. I spoke with somebody earlier this year who lost a loved one. And when I discovered that organs had been donated, I actually called the organ donor program in Orlando to ask them some questions about it, because this person, just the way they described it, it just something didn't fit right with me. And when I found out from the organ donor program in Orlando that they are currently building their own recovery OR suite, I'm like, wait a minute. If that
Yeah.
would come up back when I was in that profession, it would have been the worst news headline imaginable. But when you look at corporations like HCA that are buying up ambulance services and buying up
Yep.
doctors' practices and buying up pharmacies, and now they're building their own organ recovery suites, you got to, something's happening here. But I can tell you it's not designed that way. It's not supposed to work that way. But just like the vast majority of doctors will never sexually abuse a patient, but you're going to get one every now and again that does. So it's sort of like that. All right. I won't say that the corruption doesn't happen, but it's not designed to happen that way.
Thank you for that answer. Well, I made my kids take it off their driver's license, and I took it off mine, and I'm advising everyone to get it off because it's too easy to become a victim in this state.
Yeah.
Man.
One of the big things that I'll kind of get back to how legalized negligence got started. One of the big things that we wanted to do was show the legislators that just because you gave us a remedy in 1990 of being able to go to the Department of Health or to ACA to try to get something done about malpractice and negligence, that does not always turn out to be a true remedy. Sabrina is the odd man out, that she actually got to the end of that process with her dad.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen the majority of times. In fact, and I could pull up a document and show it to you, 2% of the doctors who have paid malpractice payouts, in other words, they've been sued for malpractice, that total number of doctors, only 2% of them ever get disciplined by the Department of Health. That means that they were found guilty, their insurance company settled with the plaintiff, and the Department of Health only disciplined 2% of them. That's what we've been trying to point out to the legislators and to the lobbyists, is that this is not a remedy. We don't have the same opportunity that we would if we could get into civil court, because all of these questions could be raised. But when we make a complaint with the Department of Health, they don't become our advocate. They're not like an attorney that we would hire to go pursue something. We give them our statement, and then they take over the case. And Travis said it best the other day. Travis, how did you word that when you said what the Department of Health's job is once we make our complaint? I can't remember the wording you used. You're muted. There you go.
I think I'd be a professional by now. They look after the interest of the state, not of the people, individual. So I would hope to think that I said it more eloquently, but in a nutshell, they look after the interest of the state alone. I actually FOIA'd. I sent a series of questions via FOIA request asking the Department of Health to enumerate if they can go after what the law allows us to go after, such as expenses, actual economic expenses, punitive damages, anything like that, what we're allowed to go after in court. And they said no. So when the lobbyists say that we get our recovery, our accountability in Department of Health's actions, we can't. We legally can't, because Department of Health cannot go after the things that civil law allows us to go after. So right there, it sinks their argument.
That's what made me question 248 to begin with, because, you know, when I went to Yarborough and I asked him these questions and I said, if they don't have any teeth in court, why bother to put people through that? They're already grieving enough, and people don't think in a minute of that. And he had no answer for me.
Yeah.
He couldn't answer it.
I sent Yarborough a letter from Legalized Negligence, from the group of us. I actually wrote the letter, but it came from the three of us. Addressing that directly to Yarborough and showing him parts of his bill 248 that simply just don't work. And he wrote back, and I think I had made 4 points, if I remember right. I kept it short. And he agreed with every single one of them. And he said, yeah, we're going to have to change that. Yeah, that's not strong enough. So he understood it. We showed him the weakness in his bill, and he understood that those changes need to be made.
Well, hopefully he will change that.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that.
I just have a question. So, because I'm ignorant of what that bill actually says, but what do you guys hope to change? Like what's the eventual outcome?
Who legalized negligence? What,
yeah, in terms of the bill.
In that particular bill, what do we hope to change?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically what his bill does is it strikes subsection 8 from 768.21, but it adds some caveats in there. And what it says is that if the Department of Health finds probable cause that the doctor committed negligence or malpractice, then we can get a ticket to get into civil court to sue civilly. Well, what we pointed out to him is that to begin with, the level of proof, the burden of proof is different in the civil court and with the Department of Health. In the civil courts, they use what's called a preponderance, which is 51%. Okay, there is a preponderance of evidence, and Sabrina can explain that to you very well using my cake icing example. Which is 50.1 or 50 plus 1% that they're guilty. When you get into and I call them administrative tribunals because they're not courts of law. They're administrative tribunals. They're done in secret behind closed doors without us being able to know what's going on. And that's another big issue that we have because it's not out in public where it needs to be. But they use Nora, what is it? Clear and convincing or clear and likely? I can't.
Clear and convincing.
Clear and convincing. I always get that mixed up, which is like 75%. So we have a 24% difference in a burden of proof when the Department of Health does it, or if we could do it in a civil court.
Wow.
And you know, that's only one of our arguments. So he said, yeah, I understand what you're saying about that, and that needs to change. And I pointed out to him, if you look in, Travis, help me remember, was it chapter 766 where they talk about the pre-suit requirements? I'm trying to remember the statute.
6 or 77.
Somewhere in the Wrongful Death Act, you can look up pre-suit requirements. And what they did is the legislature, along with when they passed subsection 8, they said there are these pre-suit requirements that you have to notify the person that you're going to sue 90 days before you ever file the suit. And during that 90 days, you have to get a medical expert, and the other side gets to get a medical expert, and both of them look at your evidence to see if malpractice occurred. And if it did, then you get to file your malpractice claim against the doctor. And it was set up that way to weed out the frivolous suits. And I actually think it's a very good idea because as angry as subsection 8 makes me, I understand that not every allegation of malpractice is actually malpractice. And Dr. Mahaffrey, I know that you've seen that too. You know, something.
Sure.
You know, sometimes you don't always survive a trip to the hospital, and it's not always the doctor's fault.
Right.
So the pre-suit requirements are a good thing. And we explained to Yarborough that that's the whole point in y'all putting the pre-suit requirements in this legislation 30 years ago. You know, why do we now have to? You're still carving out a group of people that have another step to go through with the Department of Health that the rest of the population doesn't have to go through.
Right.
That's right.
I'm sorry I rant, but I get on.
No, I don't blame you.
I get so.
Well, there's also the point that Paul Reinhardt made, that once it's in the administrative arena, it can change the process. As long as it complies with law, they can still change the process without the passage of law, because they just make rules, policies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's,
So it's really,
Go
it's
ahead.
really stacked against the consumer and the person, the patient. It's stacked against the patient, especially if they're under 20, they're over 25, they have no kids under 25, or they're not married. That's biased
Yeah.
in itself. It's biased.
yeah,
Yep.
I have another question.
sure.
My question is, can they legally refuse an autopsy? Because it seems like that's a going trend now to cover up wrongdoings.
Let me
Yeah,
let me explain to you how that works. And you're asking, can the hospital refuse to do an autopsy? Is that your question?
Not just the hospital, you know, the doctors who actually did the wrongdoing, you know?
Here's the way it
Can
is.
they legally do that?
Yeah, and it's for this reason. The way the law is written in Tennessee, where I'm from, and I seem to remember I looked it up in Florida, and it's very, very close to the same wording. If someone dies within 24 hours of a hospitalization, a medical examiner is supposed to do an autopsy, because the doctors at the hospital have not had enough time, in most cases, to have figured out what's going on with the patient. However, after 24 hours, they defer to the doctor who's been attending and figure by then the doctor has a good handle on what's happening, and if they will take the doctor's word for it for what happened. So if a doctor has been watching over a patient for, let's say, 3 days, and they pass away, and the doctor writes down a cause of death, the medical examiner is going to refer to that cause of death. Now, that doesn't prevent you from hiring your own private pathologist to do an autopsy. You can still do
Yeah, how
that.
many people can afford that though?
Well,
So
I agree.
that needs to change too.
I agree. But
Yeah.
to be fair, Elizabeth, okay, and we have to be fair about this, or we'll never get the other side to listen to us. To be fair, when someone dies and they're in a period of grief, they're hurt, they're shot, their loved one just died, a lot of things don't make sense to them. A really good book that I just finished reading recently is Medical Malpractice Litigation. And one of the things it says is that out of every 25 allegations of medical malpractice, once somebody sat down with the family member and helped them understand what had just happened, 24 of those allegations go away. So, and in fact, Japan has molded its system around that, and their medical malpractice suits pretty much are non-existent anymore, because somebody from the hospital will take the time to sit down with family members and explain what went on. But when, as we all have seen, when your loved one dies and the lawyers at the hospital start circling the wagons and they withhold information, well, naturally, we're going to be skeptical. Naturally, we're going to think that they're covering something up.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that we pointed out to Senator Yarborough, is if you can make the doctors and the hospitals be more transparent, where we're not sitting out here feeling like nobody's telling us what happened, most of those allegations will disappear.
Well, you know what? That's a really valid point, because what they did is they forbid me to come in the hospital after I became my son's medical guardian, violating his rights and mine. And their premise, COVID. So I said, I'll sign a waiver. I'll sign a waiver. So if I get sick, it's not your fault. still wouldn't do it. So what, of course, I'm going to think that they're up to no good. And 16 days after his first cardiac arrest, they have a second one. Yeah, see, so I'm fighting with them about their TH3 and 4 levels and all the other crap I'm fighting them with. So of course they were hiding some. And unfortunately, if they were transparent, they'd be less likely to do that kind of stuff. Respect will be given to the families, which right now it isn't.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Another really good book, just in case any of y'all are interested. There's
I
a
am.
book that I've just finished called When We Do Harm. It was written by a doctor who talks to other doctors about, when we mess up, we need to go out and own it.
Own it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw her name, but it's Danielle Ofri, Ofri, When We Do Harm. A doctor confronts medical error. That's another really good one. Well, I didn't mean to dominate all of that, and it looks like
No, that's good.
my wife and Sabrina have left us. So, Sharon, you and Meg have been pretty quiet throughout this whole thing. Do y'all have any questions? You're very welcome, Yana.
I just give us any updates. I have a text message here with Sabrina. So if we need to be in Tallahassee, so I have to travel from Tennessee. My dad died in Florida, but I have to travel, I'm sorry, from Tennessee. So I definitely want to be there and I want to talk, even if it's 3 minutes, just I will make that happen.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. I'm sorry I can't join you all. I fractured my pelvis. So I'm out for this duration, but I'll do whatever I can in the background. Oh, I fell and fractured it. But I'm going to be doing whatever I can in the background. So I'll be emailing and calling and generally, making my presence known.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meg,
and I will.
Meg, I think all you have to do is click the little red microphone thing and it unmutes. Or maybe up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button there you click and it'll say unmute. I think Meg's got a question.
Let's see her.
Can you unmute her, Philip, by
Let me,
chance?
let me see if it lets me do that. I'm clicking on it, but it's not allowing me. It's not letting me do anything. I can't unmute her.
If she's on a PC, it may be that her audio control to Zoom has been lost.
Okay.
She would have to do like the audio test and get it reconnected with the audio.
Okay.
But I have to go.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions? We appreciate y'all joining us tonight. I hope we've shared something with you. Let's see. Meg's got a question. I'm on a Mac. Do you have access to competent medical record readers? Well, in my case, I worked in critical care medicine for a number of years, and then the field of organ transplantation. So I was able to read my mom's own medical record. I didn't have to hire anyone to do it. But I would really like to put together a team of people who would be willing to do that. I've helped some people go through their medical record, but I've had to explain to them anything I tell you can't be used in court because I don't work in the field anymore. And any licenses that I used to have all expired by now. I've been out of it for quite a while. But it would be nice to put together a team of nurses or doctors who, would be willing to review records with people. Because I get it, man. Trying to plow through all that stuff and not understand the language. I've told my wife before when she's been in the hospital, I don't know how laymen do this. I have no idea how laymen navigate this system.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, you have a question?
Yeah. When they go to speak in that, are they allowed to present any other material like a DVD, a video of some?
They don't allow props and stuff.
No, they don't allow other things, only speaking, no documents, anything.
Yeah, I think it would just slow down the process too much. Now you can send them documents and stuff in advance, email to them, say you intend to speak or at this date. Maybe they'll be smart and have it with them. I don't know, but
Yeah, Elizabeth, were you in when Sabrina showed that big stack of folders she's putting together? Were you in the room when she showed that?
I don't know if I was for sure or not. I don't
Well,
remember
that's
that.
what she's doing tonight, is assembling these handouts to everyone so that since she won't be able to present all that if she gets to speak, she can still leave it with the legislators, and she's taking it directly to their offices. And I saw that a copy of the handout. Okay, Meg, if you can write to me at Philip with one L at legalizednegligence.com, I'll send you that information.
Philip, if it's okay with you, I'd like to be included on that meeting with Yana, if it's okay with Yana.
Say again now?
I said, when you meet with Yana, if it's okay with her, I'd like to be included on that.
Oh, I was just going to give her a call at some point next week and talk to her a little bit if she's willing. Did you say you're in Tennessee?
Yeah, I am in Tennessee, but my daddy died in Florida.
Where
He
are
told
you in
me.
Tennessee?
I am in, if you know, very close to Knoxville or Oak Ridge.
Oh, yeah,
Oak Ridge.
yeah.
And I have a brother.
I lived in Knoxville for a while, but now I'm just west and north of Nashville.
Okay. Yeah. We are fighting this case criminally now, like that examiner has really helped the exhumation and all that, because that's like, they can't, what can they say? But
Yeah.
they're covering it up. Police was covering it up. It seems like doctors there know the police, because police had open case. We've been going with Dr. Mahaffey constantly. They kept saying they're going to investigate, and then they just closed it.
Yeah.
Kind of,
It's been
so that's
unreal,
when,
really.
Yeah,
right.
we've been silenced for 2 years. Can you imagine that?
Now the doctors hire their attorneys for medical board, and medical board is not even giving me any information at all. They're saying they can't. So it's almost like, why did I even, like, they're not even,
do you
they
have
don't care.
probate open?
Excuse me?
Do you have probate open?
Yeah.
No.
What do you mean probate? I mean, like, I am a guardian of my dad?
The executor of his estate.
Yeah,
So,
I do.
Oh,
you have letters of administration.
What
It's
does that
it's a
mean?
court order making you the representative of your dad's estate.
Yes, I do. I paid $5,000 to lawyer to do it, and I went in front of judge. Yes.
Okay, well, so you're represented with an attorney. You're not having to do this yourself. That attorney should be able to subpoena records for you, and be part of all the court proceedings and such. Also, have them flex the power that you have. You don't have to have a lawsuit when you're in probate in order to subpoena. That's the beauty of probate. You don't have to have a lawsuit. You're going to do it all before.
Okay, I don't understand how law works at all, so I'm learning in a process that I guess I'm going. Nobody tells me my rights, or nobody really cares,
Yeah,
I have to.
I'll help you figure that out.
wow.
I'll help you figure all of that out and kind of help get you on the road to getting some help with that, because that is so bizarre, and it wouldn't
Yes.
surprise me if the cops closed the case because they recognized that they had become involved in something extremely illegal. And so they closed the case and shut it down. And please don't think that I'm not trying to be rude here, but they probably recognize that there's some things about the law that you don't understand, and they took advantage of
Ooh.
that. Yeah.
Well, what I know is that very first time when we went to cops, Dr. Mahaffey was with me. She came to cops with me.
Yeah.
And the actual cop said that how come we don't know about this death at all when it occurred in a hotel room? That's unusual. Why they didn't notify us? And she said she's going to investigate and everything. And months went by. We kept going after her with Dr. Mahaffey constantly. So what's new? What are you doing in a case? What's happening? And at the end, they just sent us an email. The case is closed for no evidence. They never even investigated any evidence. They never even looked into anything. They were given by me evidence. So what happened at that point, I got so desperate that I took out a loan and I hired my own forensic examiner and I had my own examiner. So I had to do that. Otherwise, it would be totally covered up.
Yeah.
I would FOIA the police, get their call logs, get their video cameras, that they wear. Just get that from them under FOIA, and you'll have it. Maybe it'll turn something up, at least a cover up or improper handling of the case, in which case that might give you some leverage.
I did talk to one criminal attorney that was a friend of my husband. They went to school together. So we finally talked to him about the whole case. And he said that he sees that we have not only, the case with my dad, but he says that will be a case against the cops. That I can see the cops for mishandling the case.
Need to see if your attorney can issue a preservation of evidence order or motion, have something like that done and served on people so that they can't just destroy stuff.
Do you know what kind of attorney to hire for the cops? Do you know the attorney? What kind of attorney?
I think I would go to the DA.
We did.
We did that with Dr. Mahaffey, and I'm talking local DA right there.
Yeah.
He's covering it up. They are all on it.
DA, okay. Well,
I don't know what attorney.
Yeah, we can talk about this in a phone conversation because I've got some other ideas for you too. I just don't want to get things on a podcast that later on really don't fit in with what we're talking about here.
Oh yeah, I understand.
But I've got your email address, so I'll send you an email later next week, and we can talk and hopefully steer you in a direction that somebody will do something. I guarantee you, somebody will be interested in hearing that story. There is somebody out there who wants to hear that story.
Yeah.
So.
All right, guys, I have to go.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate
you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, Yana, I hope we've helped a little bit.
Yes.
And I'm going to
Thank you so much, Philip.
You're very welcome. I'm going to talk to Sabrina about when she's in Tallahassee next week, having nightly meetings on Zoom so that we can update people about what's happening that day. And like Travis said earlier, any of these bills probably won't be heard the first week, but at least we can get a feel for what's happening and keep people up to date on it. Thanks a million. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Have a great day or an evening.
Bye, guys. Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye.
Bye, Yana.
Bye.